You
I
can.
was at a Riot in 2011, late 2011, and Riot, like, League of Legends was just a rocket ship at that time.
Yes.
And we had that same thing of, I think if we a lot of times in the years that followed, we would look back and be like, "Oh, why did we do this dumb decision?" But then we'd be like, I things were pretty crazy, and we did not know how to scale, and we were just bringing people in and getting into more regions, and the game was going crazy, and is esports a thing? And, like, there's a million different questions, like, how many characters do we release? What does that mean for the long-term future of the like, all these questions are flying around that if the game had become a moderate success and had some players and done pretty well, it would have been like, okay, yeah, we can handle this. We're ready for this. And it wasn't that. It was huge, which again, like you said, that's where you want to be. You want to be,
Yeah.
we've got to solve this really hard problem of this thing exploded. And the debate that you're having around how do we maintain what's special about this game, the studio, all these
Yes.
different things while we're just expanding like crazy.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a great problem to have when that happens, but it's not trivial to overcome either. And
yeah.
it's good to see that they're not a one-hit wonder either. So it's nice to have that on top of that, because that's what one of the concerns you have in a studio like that. When you start from a single product to a multi-product studio, that's a huge jump in
Mm,
a lot of different ways. But
yeah.
that's a huge jump. Again, I think that I look at Apex Legends as a good example of a game that launched. It had 85 million people because it was the adult Fortnite when it launched.
Mm,
And because their pipelines weren't in place and their branching wasn't in place, they couldn't keep up with demand. It took them so long to get content out that they shrunk a lot,
mm,
considerably down to sub 5 million. And to me, that's a shame because they had the potential of that rocket ship of going even higher. They
mm.
would have been able to do that. And they could have easily been the adult Fortnite. And I think that that has helped them. That's hurt them. But again, they're still taking that franchise and still making it the best they can. But still, again, that robbing Peter to pay Paul sometimes, that balancing out and learning who your audience is to make sure you continue to have success is not trivial in a games of service
Yeah.
game. And so I feel for them.
There's a theme in some of the last couple of things we've talked about that in so many ways you can't predict the future, right? You can't predict where investors are going to be and what they're going to want. You can't predict how your game is going to do. You can't predict, are you going to be in that situation where it's wildly successful or where it's not meeting expectations and you're trying to recover. And by the way, talk about, like you said, this is the problem you want to have is this was more successful than I thought and I have to solve that hard problem, but great problem, right?
Yes,
In
it
so
is.
many ways. You have the flip side of that, which is this game is underperforming, and
Yeah.
oh my goodness, is that's a it is.
Here's one thing I'll say about that. I look at CDF Project, right? And I look at Cyberpunk 77 launched really bad, but the
Mhm.
company stuck with it. They learned a lot of lessons and they turned it around. And the reason is they were humble about it. Again, what I told you about being humble, like
Yeah,
the finales, like the finals, sorry, and being humble like art raiders, they too were very humble about Cyberpunk. And Cyberpunk now has done very well for them with the latest expansion and continue to grow. And they're working on Cyberpunk 2, the next version of Cyberpunk 77.
yeah,
And again, that discipline, by the way, that's like where a private organization can do, right? Can say, you know what, we're going to hunker down. We're not going to, this is a long term bet. This is not a short term bet. And we're going to take it. If their core is right, this is what I'm going to say about this. If your core is off and it really is way off, you might as well just shoot it in the head,
yeah,
in my opinion, because
yeah.
that's not happening. There's not much you can do about it, in my opinion. But if you have a really good four core gameplay loops that are fun and engaging, and you just messed up in a lot of different areas, you need to focus it and make it better. Player experience, yes, you have the opportunity. There's so many good examples out there. Cyberpunk is one of them.
I think that there's another one that is actually in the public space, and to come and again to talk about Ubisoft and Siege. Siege was a game
Yes.
launched famous, like Rainbow Six is not a
Yep.
small franchise in their
Nope.
catalog, and they kept supporting that thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were like, "That's dead. It's gone. Don't worry about it." And they kept working it, and suddenly they're one of the three pack shooters that are out in the market today. And you could say
Yep.
maybe they're not as big as Counter Strike, or maybe they're not as big as Valorant or whatever, but it's like, yeah, but there's something and they are
Yes.
existing and they're paying for themselves and they've got a lot of players that love that experience. I tried it and I was like, this is definitely not for me. And that's again, that's that spikiness
Yeah.
where it's meeting a need in that space. And they didn't, it's that example. If you do that 10 times, how many will work? Who knows?
Yeah.
And I think the cool thing is they did it, they got it right eventually, and they kept giving them the time to do that.